Hey, it's me, Jordan, and this is my independent reading project. I chose The Last Song by Nicholas Sparks. Yay, all the ladies are loving that one. This wasn't required, but I really like these quotes in this book. It's a um, very wise, has very wise characters, and one of them says, just when you think it can't get any worse, it can, and just when you think it can't get any better, it can. And that was said by Ronnie's father. Nicholas Sparks was born in Nebraska. He was the middle child of three children. He had an older brother and a younger sister. His mother, Jill, is an optometrist's assistant, and his father, Patrick, is a scientist, which is kind of peculiar that he became a writer out of the two professions that his parents chose, but things happen. He wrote The Notebook in 1992 when it became successful. He moved to North Carolina, and he's lived here ever since with his wife and 5 children. Where the magic happens. The setting of the last song is in Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. It's significant because Ronnie lives in New York with her mother, and New York compared to North Carolina is a big difference. She has to adapt to the change in scenery and the way of life, and it's in a rural area with a beach and a few shops, which is the complete opposite of New York City. New York City is big lights, shops all the time, lots of people, traffic, roads, everything. And I just think that she has to almost get used to the people being more hospitable. I don't mean that in an ugly way, people from the north or whatever, but I just think that down south, we always have that southern hospitality, and especially comparing North Carolina to New York, there's a big hospitality difference there. The stars of, excuse me, the stars of the show. Ronnie Miller is definitely the biggest star. She's the daughter of Steve Miller, definitely the main character here, even though the book does have it in the different points of view, which I really like because you get to see Ronnie and her father and Will's point of view throughout the whole book. But she's the daughter of Steve Miller. She lives with her mother in New York, and she acts very bold and rebellious, that I believe that she only acts this way because her father left, and she's kind of trying to defend herself from being hurt any longer or anymore. She's actually very caring and deep on the other side. One of the quotes she says that really shows her character is, truth only means something when it's hard to admit. Don't you get that? Which is something she was saying to her boyfriend Will when he was trying to explain a situation to her. Next to Steve Miller, he's the father of Ronnie and Jonah Miller. Yes, Ronnie does have a little brother. He's very loving to his children, but he has a very laid back attitude, though he still cares. Um, he was accused of burning down the church in their town. Um, this actually was not his fault. He was just accused for it. And one of his quotes is, you have to love something before you can hate it. Sorry if you hear any background noise, that is the vacuum. And the last main character is Will Blakely, the, in my opinion, very attractive main character, the most attractive main character. If you have watched the movie, he is Liam Hemsworth, also related to Chris Hemsworth, who is Thor. Um, his family is very rich. He's extremely down to earth, and his brother Mikey died in a car accident when he was younger. He works at his dad's mechanic shop, volunteers at the aquarium, and plays beach volleyball on the side, which is a loadful. I can feel his pain there. One of my favorite quotes, he didn't say this, but he did this in the book. And every girl wants that perfect relationship and that perfect guy. And boy, does this make a girl swoon right here. He said he pulled her close and kissed her beneath the blanket of stars, wondering how on her earth he'd been lucky enough to find her. Doesn't that make you just want? Oh, I don't even have words to describe. Anyways, getting a little emotional there. This is a quote that's one of my favorites. It says, I have faith that God will show you the answer, but you have to understand that sometimes it takes a while to be able to recognize what God wants you to do. That's how often it is. God's voice is usually nothing more than a whisper, and you have to listen very carefully to hear it. But other times, in those rarest of moments, the answer is obvious and rings as loud as a church bell. That was said by their pastor in the town, Pastor Harris, when he was talking to their father, Steve. The plot, Ronnie's parents have divorced and she's living in New York with her mother and her little brother Jonah. Her mother forces Ronnie and Jonah to go spend the summer with their father in Wrightsville Beach, though Ronnie hasn't seen him in 3 years. She's avoided him because she thinks that he cheated on her mother. While at Wrightsville Beach, Ronnie meets Will Blakely, who is a very handsome teenager. just a year older than her, and the two, of course, like every love story, hit it off automatically and fall in love, and they spend every waking moment together just like a new couple does. Um, During this time, Ronnie has begun to forgive her father for leaving, and the two become really close. One thing that I didn't mention that I should have is she did play piano. Her father teaches piano. He's very talented. He taught at Juilliard, and he taught her how to play, and she's been playing since she was little. But when he left, after her parents' divorce, she stopped playing, and that will become a bigger deal later in the story. When walking from the beach to his house, Steve Miller, Ronnie's father, collapses and is immediately brought to the hospital and put into ICU, or intensive care unit. Ronnie then discovers that her father has cancer and has known about it for quite a while, but he didn't tell them. While he's in the hospital, Will tells Ronnie that he has been accepted to Vanderbilt University and won't be going to Columbia in New York, like Ronnie hoped he would so that they could be together. Soon enough, summer is over, Will has gone to Vanderbilt, and Jonah has been picked up to go back home to New York by their mom. Ronnie stays with her father since she is 18 and begins to play piano again. Like I said, it would come into play. Um, while in the hospital, Steve dies in his sleep with Ronnie laying right beside him. Um, at the funeral, Will shows up, and the happily ever after occurs at last, though Ronnie and her brother are still mourning the loss of their father. Will ends up, I don't really want to spoil it, but I don't really think anybody will get mad at me, but Will ends up going to, moving to Columbia, and Ronnie gets accepted at Juilliard, and I don't know about anything else, but they stay together. Anyways, rhetorical devices, foreshadowing. This occurs at the beginning of the book when Ronnie is portrayed as a rebellious figure, but then comforts a young child until he found his mother. The quote is, then he turned back to the girl, noticing the kind way she smiled as the young boy toddled off. The allusion here is when at Bowers Point with her friend, she remembered back to earlier that day when she was at Blaze's house watching the Breakfast Club. The quote is, and afterward they'd gone to Blaze's house to watch the Breakfast Club while her mom was at work. Diatypsis is kind of like I think I said that correct. It's like an advice, kind of wise words. And this is seen when Steve is talking to Ronnie about her relationship with Will. He says that just when you think it can't get any worse, it can, and just when you think it can't get any better, it can. Last one is an anaphora. When hearing her dad at the piano, Ronnie becomes extremely frustrated, thinking that he was playing just to get her to play again, and she says that I hate the piano, I hate that I had to play it every single day, and I hate that I even have to see that damn thing anymore. Please excuse my French, but I was saying the quote. The theme, my opinion, the theme is love. The theme is love is very prominent in most books that you read. This one is a really great portrayal of not just romantic love, but wholehearted love towards another person. Though it takes Ronnie a while to forgive him after staying with him during the summer, her father becomes a big part of her life. He did break her heart when he left their family, but he still loved her, and she always loved him, though they had their problems. The quote here says, God, he suddenly understood, was love at its purest form, and in these last months with his children he had felt his touch as surely as he had heard the music spilling from Ronnie's hands. Which is a very strong quote if you had read the whole book, but I still think it's strong without the book context. Another thing to support that is Ronnie's love for her father is very different from her love for Will. She's fallen in love with the handsome young man and wants to be with him forever. She is herself when she's around him and loves him for the things he is and for the things he isn't. The book is trying to tell us how to forgive people of their past mistakes and how to move on and learn to love one another, not on another. That's kind of awkward. One another. We'll talk about that later, but just so you know, I didn't mean what I said to your dad. I love you. That was said by Ronnie to Will. Okay, the tone. The tone of this book that the author is trying to convey is forgiveness. There's many examples of forgiveness. Ronnie forgives her father for walking out on their family and for also not telling her that he had cancer. And it says here she says, of course I forgive you, she said, and it was then that she began to cry. Ronnie forgives Blaze for putting unpurchased items into her purse, causing her to get a fine. And also, Will is forgiven by Ronnie when he tells her the story of how the church was burnt down and what really happened. She closed her eyes, hating the truth. Okay, she said. How do I fit in? Unfortunately, this book is very parallel to my life, subtracting the, cute Will part. Like Ronnie, my parents divorced when I was young, and I resented them both for it, though I didn't go completely um, rebellious like she did. I did get an attitude. Also, like Ronnie, my father passed away, though while hers passed away from cancer, mine passed away from a heart attack. I was 12, for a young kid like that, that's very difficult. I can understand why she put up that rebellious wall. I can completely relate to the pain she was feeling during that time, and I can understand why she made the decisions that she did. Another similarity is the fact that Ronnie played piano, and I felt very strongly about it. I have played for a grand total of 8 years, and I'm still playing. The critique, one thing that Nicholas Sparks should be applauded for is his major use of imagery. Sure, all other authors use imagery to make their books come alive, but the way Sparks uses the imagery just blows me away. It really does. When reading, the reader can feel every emotion, every infliction of pain or happiness that the characters are feeling. It takes a very good writer to make a reader feel this way. The critique continued, when writing the text, the readers will be forever changed, but in a positive way. Ronnie had so many negative occurrences in her life, the divorce, losing her father, and at one point losing Will. However, like most good stories, it ends on a happy note, though it still has the underlying sadness of her father's death. The impact I believe it will have on readers is that they will realize that though things might be tough, there will always be a light at the end of the tunnel. And this is my works cited, the book. Thanks for listening.